What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? This is Jeff with the Hill Brothers, back with the next edition of Tar Heel Olympic Spotlight. Hope everybody had a good week. I will preface this by saying that I am recording this actually on Monday night instead of Sunday night, as I usually do, because another volleyball tournament. But I decided, in the past I'd stuck to, well, and do it on Sunday night. And, I figured it's easy enough to do it Monday night too, not get far behind, and not skip them, like I said, because I like talking. I like talking to y'all. I like talking the stuff. I like putting it out there. So anyway, had a pretty busy week with some stuff going on. Had some definite high points. Definite high points of the week that we'll get into a little bit. Starting off though, like we have been kind of with I won't say the housekeeping stuff, but like the polls and things like that came out. We actually this week for Olympic sport wise did not have any ACC players of the week or any of those kind of honors coming that came. We did have it, this past week for softball, which Alan and I covered on Full Count Carolina, that came out on Friday morning. Again, if you haven't checked those out yet, we record them on Thursday nights, talking about baseball and softball, the previous week's action, as well as a preview of what's coming up for those teams in the following weekend. So be sure to check those out. Like I said, they'll drop on Friday mornings, and something new. I think we've done preview and then 2 episodes now. So getting going really good stuff out there, and happy to be able to talk about that stuff and expand the Hill Brothers repertoire or reach or however you want to put it. But anyway, Olympic stuff, gymnastics, typical pole stuff. After the week, the new Road to Nationals NCAA gymnastics rankings that came out, Carolina fell down 2 spots to number 17. There was some gymnastics action that took place this past week that we'll talk about. It was actually on Sunday night. Sunday afternoon was the last thing that happened during the week, actually. Women's basketball went up 1 spot to number 21 in the AP Top 25 Women's College Basketball poll. Women's lacrosse remained number 1 in the IWLCA coaches poll, and men's lacrosse had jumped up 3 spots to number 2 in the USILA men's coaches poll. I've talked about this before. There's several different polls when it comes to men's and women's lacrosse. There's the ones that I mentioned, the IWLCA and the USILA. Those are the coaches polls. Those are the ones I generally follow. Those are the ones I pay attention to, and I will when I'm talking rankings and things like that. That's what I will quote and bring y'all. But I will note, because it made number 1, there was at least one poll, the Inside Lacrosse Media poll, that had men's lacrosse last week jumping up to number 1. So, good stuff. 1, 2, however you file. Either way, good stuff there. Tuesday, track and field stuff came out. The weekly indoor track and field rankings came out. The women were up 6 spots to number 31. And those track and field polls are by the USTF CCCA, and that's the body that does the polls. You can look into those if you want to. They did do the event squad rankings, which are the rankings for what I've talked about, like for instance the mile and 800 meter pole vault, those 3,000 meter, 5,000 meter, those events. Like the group of when it calls it event squad, because we usually have 3 or 4 athletes that participate in those events, and based on their performance, they get rankings. They get rankings at the same time, that update rankings of those at the same time that the actual national team rankings come out. We did have a couple top 10s in those. There were some that were a little out of the top 10 that I'm not gonna, I won't delve into, because I think it, as I found the last few weeks, it tends to get a little longer and maybe I might get a little monotone with what I'm talking about, and y'all might get bored with it. So, but worth mentioning for the women, the squads that we have that were in top 10 rankings nationally were our mile team was number 4, the 800 meter group was number 7, and pole vault number 9. So the men fell down one spot to 34 in the national team rankings, but they have a couple top 10 event squads as well. Number 8 for the 3,000 meter and number 9 for the 5,000 meter. So again, the distance stuff that Carolina again typically is strong in, distance U, as I like to start calling it after the success we've had in recent years with the distance events. Especially with the men's stuff with folks like Ethan Strand and Parker Wolf, and now coming up with guys like Colton Sands. Strong performances there, always on the national stage, and ACC stuff too, which we'll talk about a little bit because there was ACC for indoor track and field this past week. So that will be one of the competition points we talk about. The final regular season, actually, skip that. Yeah, I'll say it. Final regular season wrestling, NWCA coaches wrestling poll came out. Carolina fell down 3 spots to 15. If you remember, that's based off of the loss that we had to Virginia Tech this past week there, or the previous week there. Not Virginia Tech, I'm sorry, Stanford. To Stanford in what was senior night. And wrestling, nothing happened for wrestling this past week as far as competition goes. Geared up for ACCs, which are actually ACC championships will actually be this coming weekend, and we'll hit that when we go in the very end. When we go the rundown of the week that is for Tar Heel Olympic sports and what's on the docket. Women's tennis remained number 3 in the ITA, the women's collegiate team rankings. There weren't. Remember I talked about this before. There's some weeks they usually have like once a month or every other week type thing where they'll do team rankings and the doubles and singles rankings for women's tennis and men's tennis. This past week was simply a team rankings. Men still not ranked, and actually the rankings have expanded now. I think I mentioned last week to like 75 teams, and men are still not in the 75 for the rankings that were for this past week. So we'll see if that changes. We had a couple ranked opponents this past week that we'll talk about how we fared there. And as far as the final regular season, the intermat rankings for regular season individual weight class guys, we still have some wrestlers holding strong in there that I'll mention going into ACC tournament time. Kyson Tirakina, sorry, buddy. 125 pounds, number 16 in the country. Ethan Oakley, 133 pounds, number 26 in the country. Luke Simcox, 141 pounds, fell to 12th in the country from 10th the previous week. Laird Root at 157 pounds, number 26 in the country. Bryce Hepner at 165 pounds. He's had some fall. He's been falling down the last couple of weeks in the rankings there. 19th in the country right now at 165. And I think that's a bargain rating because I think when Bryce is at his best, he's better than that. He's right around the top 10. Last couple of weeks haven't quite been what we've come to expect from Bryce earlier in the season. Looking forward to how they ratchet it up and really get it going for ACCs and then NCAAs following that. And finally, Jake Daly, 184 pounds, 15th in the country. Another one of those guys that's been a surprise this year. He and Luke Simcox have really led the charge in a lot of ways for us as far as winning in matches and meets when maybe nobody else does really. Some of those meets that we've lost pretty bad, there were a few of those in there where they were the only two that won, and they both have been starting lineup this year, brand new to that. So, and that was it as far as those kind of housekeeping things from the polls. And like I said, polls and rankings, and there weren't any pre or ACC like player of the week type honors. Rowing, which the one exception I guess was rowing, which like I said is kicking off now, the rowing season within a month inside a month now. The ACC did release the preseason watch list, and it's made up of a rower from every school in the conference. Full disclosure, it's one rower from every school in the conference that's been recognized as one of the folks to watch, and ours would be sophomore Ella Gussick. So again, rowing season's getting ready to kick off in inside a month, a little over 3 weeks, and once they kick off and start rolling, we'll talk about them. We'll talk about polls. I said this before a couple weeks ago, but just to circle back with it, kind of set the stage for rolling a little bit. Preseason or final poll of last year, the Pocock CRCA poll, which is the poll for rowing, collegiate rowing. We finished the season in 25th when the preseason poll came out maybe 3 weeks ago. I think it was at this point. Found ourselves not ranked. See how things change. Carolina's been up and coming, and that one's kind of hovered around. The ACC has got some strong programs when it comes to rowing, and you're looking at the Virginias and stuff like that. Rowing, I mentioned this before. Rowing actually was big at my high school. I went to high school. I'm native of Durham and most of my life in the Durham area, but 3 years of high school, I was in Northern Virginia. I went to Washington Lee High School, which is now Washington Liberty High School, because my dad was stationed at the Pentagon at that point. And crew rowing, whatever you want to call it, was huge at my high school. A lot of stuff lot of regattas on the Potomac. It was just really big in the area. It's big college in the area. Our high school team used to go over to England and take part in Stokesbury Regatta, which is a really, really, really famous regatta, basically. So kind of thing. And I had friends that rowed on the team. So it's kind of been one of those things that I've always kind of kept my eye on and had a little particular interest in. So again, something else we get to talk about. So that's cool. Once the season rolls around. Competition wise, there were several things. And like I kind of did last week, I think the format I worked on last week was just, instead of running through day by day, I'm going to kind of group all the program stuff together for the week and run it through like that. So we're not skipping from team to team quite so much. Maybe it seems in my head to flow better when I'm talking about it, especially. I feel like it's got a little more continuity to it. So hope you all agree with that. Again, suggestions, things like that, hit the comments on that and let me know, so we can continue to evolve this to be as useful as possible for y'all. The whole idea, like I said, I've always said, is to bring light to the programs that and talk about the programs that don't get as much publicity, those Olympic sports and non-ref sports, things like that. So, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I do, because I like to do it. Women's basketball had two contests this past week. One on the road on Thursday and one at home on Sunday. Both of those ended up on the good side for the Heels. Got a win on Thursday night up in Charlottesville, and in doing so, also on the way to that, set a program record with 16 3-pointers in the game. So that was an 82-70 win over Virginia. And, that's the note. The interesting note I have on this one is that's our 13 ACC wins. That made our 13th ACC win this season. And that's the first time we've done that. That's the first time in consecutive seasons that we've had that in program history. So you can't put enough emphasis or on how the program is trending up. Yeah, we have frustrating losses sometimes. It seems like, earlier in the season we were basically not beat any AP ranked opponents up to this point, up till Thursday when playing Virginia through that. And Virginia wasn't a ranked opponent, but all the ranked opponents that we had faced, the AP ranked opponents, some higher than us, some lower than us, we managed to find ways to lose. A lot of the times it was because of bad free throw shooting, which, again, I beat that drum probably a little too much. But I've also, if you paid attention, been quick to point out when we shot well from the line. So, because if I'm going to criticize for those things, I'm sure as heck going to give them the team their just due when they improve on it and do it well. It's only fair, right? But yeah, 13 ACC wins in consecutive seasons for the first time in school history. And this is a program that has won a national championship. We did that back in '94. Have won a national championship. So that's a pretty big deal, pretty big number as far as I'm concerned. Shot 58% from the floor, like I said, which 16 3-pointers. Figure we'd shoot pretty well if that's the case. And that's the first time we beat Virginia in 3 seasons, I believe the stat says. So, and first win in Charlottesville since 2023. So that moved us to 24-6 on the season, 13-4 in the ACC. Just a good performance. Like I said, offensively, we're, especially from 3-point range, we were on point. And that's really the key to it all, quite honestly. But just to kind of a couple more talking points to think about and look at as we're going. The offensive efficiency. I saw this is one of Matt Krause's stat notes, his Matt stats. They're really awesome. Follow Matt Krause on social media, on Twitter. If you don't already, if you're on Twitter, he does a lot of good stuff. Number one, he's an excellent play-by-play announcer for several Carolina sports, but he also does a really good job when it comes to women's basketball on these Matt stats that he puts out after every game. And his note was an important one as well. Offensive efficiency in our win against Virginia, best in a conference game in over 2 decades for Carolina. So, just underscores the 16 3-pointers. Obviously, that efficiency, man. We did it at a high clip because, like I said, we shot 58% from the floor that night. So, 82 points. The other note, 82 points. We only had 8 points from free throws and 20 points in the paint. Again, shows how we were getting it done when it's shooting from long range, especially. Elena Arnasalo had a career high 20 points, 4 made 3-point field goals. Second half or first half, turnovers were in the first quarter, especially. We had turned it over a little more, cleaned that up in the second quarter, which helped power us to the victory. I mentioned the 8 made free throws on 9 attempts. So again, free throws, 88.9%. You hit a lot of your free throws, good things are going to happen. It's just the way it goes. More often than not, you're so often, I think, again, not every case, but there's a lot of times, I think most times, I think if you look at a win, a lot of times you're going to have a healthy percentage to power that. The men have been the men's basketball team, which we've talked about on some post reaction stuff that Alan and I and Tori have done some with Hill Brother stuff that you might see after basketball games. Some of the basketball games has not been the case, so they're kind of the exception to my rule there. But is what it is. There, 66% from 3, almost 67% from 3-point range. Like I said, 16 made on 24 attempts and 58%. So held UVA to 40% from the floor. And like I said, cleaned up the turn. We did turn it over 17 times total though, which was to their 10, which is a lot. Had a slight rebounding edge. They killed us on the offensive glass by 8. 5 for us, 13 for them. Still find a way to win. Men's basketball's had that too, where we'll get killed we've gotten beat on the glass in some games that we've won. It's good. You don't want to lose those categories, but yet and still finding ways to win when you're not winning in all phases of the game is really kind of what it's about, right? And that rolls us into Sunday. Sunday was senior day for women's basketball, taking on Duke. Lost to them earlier in the season in Cameron. Duke's coming in number 12 ranked. Again, Carolina came into that matchup 21, 21st ranked. And back and forth game till the fourth quarter, and we kind of pulled away a little bit, and then got a little close, but we come out the 74-69 victory. You know, rivalry dub, upset over higher ranked team. Senior day for senior day for Nyla Harris and Indy Navarre. So, you know, good to be able to send them out on a win. Always like to do that, right? Always like to do that. And important to note, fifth time in a row. So fifth time in a row we've actually beat Duke in Carmichael for women's basketball. So, we seem to be holding on pretty well there. Holding our own there as far as that goes. And that, that's going to hopefully propel us now into the ACC tournament, which is coming up. Back half of each quarter, we really clamped down on them. I think Duke went the final a little over 3 minutes without a field goal. 3-point success. We weren't as good from 3-point range as we had been. You have a night where you're hit 16 of them at a very high clip, and we were 9 of 18. No, excuse me, that's Duke's numbers. We were 8 of 23 from 3-point range against Duke. So that's 35% almost. 74% from the line, 20 of 27. We actually shot better than Duke did. They were 10 of 15 for 66%. Held them under 40% from the field. Typically, and this might be a Coach Williams thing that I think I remember from basketball on the men's side. I think the holding the team below 40% shooting has always kind of been a mark of, you've done a good job there. And ideally, unless you're just shooting god awful, you're going to win. You should win games where you've held a team, below 40% is kind of the way I've always kind of heard it and looked at it. Out rebounded Duke all the way around by 12, plus 12, plus 4 on the offensive glass. Turnovers, minus 6 in the turnover battle, but again, get the job done. Rivalry over Duke. Able to send Nyla Harris and Indy Navarre out as winners at home against your rival. Hey, that's a good thing. Elena Arnosalo back-to-back 20-point games, by the way. She had 20 again. Nyla Harris had 9 made free throws, which is the most by any Tar Heel this season. Is another Matt Stat nugget. And back-to-back 7 rebound games for Elena Arnosalo as well. So she's, back-to-back 20 and 7s basically, and also leading in assists. So getting it done. She has come up big. The UCLA transfer really come on this last little bit of the season, and it's a perfect time for it because, again, ACCs are rolling around, and Carolina, and then hopefully rolling into doing some good work in the ACC. And then maybe getting a host. I think we've got ourselves in a decent position for that. If we win some games in the ACC tournament. The net rankings, I think we fell from 17 to 18 actually in net. I saw somebody say after the Duke win, which you're 21 in the polls. You're 21. You beat number 12, and you fall a spot in the net. I've said it before. I hate the net rankings, but you got to pay attention to them now because men's and women's basketball, because the committees, NCAA tournament committees. It's not my first day talking, I promise. Tournament committees rely on them really heavily, so you got to look at them. ACC tournament coming up this week. It's going to kick off. It kicks off early in the week. Obviously, we with our 14 wins, which is our 14 conference wins now, most since 2013, locks us into the double bye at the number 3 seed. So that's huge. We don't play till Friday instead of having to play Tuesday. And we play it Friday at 7:30. And it's going to be against the winner of the 6th seed, Virginia Tech, and then the winner of number 11 seed, Georgia Tech, number 14 seed, Florida State, which play on Tuesday night. So the winner of that game, Georgia Tech, Florida State, will play Virginia Tech on Wednesday, and the winner on Thursday, and the winner gets us on Friday. So it should be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay. So, and for some reason, this is one of those things, and I feel about this like I feel about having the men's basketball tournament in Brooklyn. It's in Duluth, Georgia, and I saw somebody say it's Greater Atlanta area. Then I saw a Carolina fan come back on social media saying, "Yeah, that's about Greater Atlanta, like Chapel Hill's in the Greater Raleigh area." Again, it's ridiculous. Duluth, Georgia, and I think Coach Banghart said she didn't even know where Duluth was. So bring them back to Greensboro and Charlotte. Greensboro, I get home, alternate the tournaments. I get them. It's a money grab and all this. I understand. And I realize I'm yelling at the clouds and it's not going to change, but I'm always going to be for advocating. And I'm always going to advocate for, being in Greensboro and Charlotte. I'm fine if you alternate them. One year the men's is in Greensboro and the women's is in Charlotte, and then the other next year, flip them. Greensboro, Charlotte, North Carolina, home of the ACC, where it started. That's my wish, at least. So some will say keep it in Greensboro always. I'm fine with switching them off. But again, that's not going to change. Looking for our 10th ACC tournament title, and it would be the first since 2008. So big weekend ahead. Big weekend ahead for Coach Banghart and the team. Hopefully, hopefully they have a good one and bring us back an ACC title. So that'd be awesome. That would be awesome to see and to have happen. Rolling now into something that was ACC sport that did have ACC championships this past week, indoor track and field. They kicked off on Thursday. And, at the beginning, you've got some events that ran finals immediately. And some, it's based off how many runners there are for these events. And then some had prelims on Thursday that then would have the finals on Friday. And then there were some prelims on Friday when the finals for those events happened on Saturday. The ACC was indoor track and field was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Coming out of Friday, we did have an ACC champion crowned in the men's 5,000 meters. Like I said, distance U, go ahead and call us that. Colton Sands, I alluded to him before when I was talking about some of the distance stuff, when I was talking about the indoor track and field in our event squad rankings for the men and how the distances always were in there, kind of the 3,000 meter, 5,000 meter deals. Just another in the line, man. Another in the line of excellence at the distance events. We'll see if he continues it on the national stage and can fill the shoes or live up. I mean, I'm not going to say he's gonna equal or be up with what Parker Wolf and Ethan Strand were, because they set the bar so incredibly high. But Colton is running well. He's running well. He's been running well. So looking forward to seeing if maybe coming into the NCAA tournament or to the NCAA's not tournament, but the NCAA indoor championships, at least get a podium finish. I think that would be. I think that's his expectation. He would probably tell you national title. That'd be great. I'd like to see at least a podium finish out of it. So get at least a bronze. I think that's easily doable for him with some of the work he's done this year and the times he's set that we've talked about as far as in fastest times in NCAA history and the top 5 rankings that he's done. First, second, and third in the events. First, second, and third. So the podium for the indoor events earns your first team all ACC, 4th, 5th, 6th typically until you for the individual events until you get to the relays, and they're different there. It's different for the relays as far as what the designations are for all ACC. We did not have any in those, so I'm not really even going to go into how it splits out. But the gold for Colton also earned him first team all ACC honors. Tomer Tarragano finished 4th in the men's 5,000 meter, which earned him second team all ACC honors. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to run through the finisher on the events. I'm going to highlight as we're going through this for interest's sake and brevity's sake, and again, not boring y'all with some of the details that I figured out I've probably delved a little too deep into in the past. I'm going to highlight the all ACC, the podium finishes obviously, and then the second team all ACC finishes, which would be again 4th, 5th, and 6th. Kyle Archie came in 5th in the men's high jump, earned him second team All ACC honors. And again, women's weight throw. You've heard me talk about it. You've heard me mention her name. She went on a string early in the season of winning 3 events for the women's weight throw. But Kosi Umarov finished 4th in the women's weight throw in the ACC championships, indoor championships, earning her second team All ACC honors. I will call out pentathlon Aria Way. She's a freshman. Her first pentathlon finished 9th with a 9th all-time UNC score in that event. So good work there. Pentathlon for women, the multi-event deal where they go through, the 60-meter hurdles for women, the high jump, the shot put, the long jump, and the 800-meter event. That's a heck of an event, man. And it requires whoever participates in it to be a jack of all trades, so to speak, in those events. It's an awesome event, and it really requires a lot of skill and the athletes to be kind of well versed and stuff. So 9th place finish in Aria's first ACC championship. That's noteworthy as far as I'm concerned. The men's heptathlon did start on Thursday. It's most of 4 of the events were on Thursday. The men's heptathlon, 60 meters, the long jump, the shot put, the high jump all took place on Thursday. And there were a couple, the finishing for that took place on Friday. So we'll hit that coming up. But Max Stacking Pickering, who has always been up there and good in the heptathlon as far as competing in events and ACCs, third after the first day of the men's heptathlon, going into, men's heptathlon is redundant, I think, because heptathlon is just men, pentathlon is women. Kind of set the record straight there. Rolling into Friday, a lot of prelims Friday was made up of a lot of prelims for the running for the track events. Had 6 Tar Heels that qualified for finals that would take place on Friday. And, those, you got to, Aiden Neal in the mile, Vera Schoberg, Reese Dalton in the women's mile qualified. Women's 60 meter hurdles, Leah Berry, Kalani Witherspoon both qualified for the finals. 800 meter, Michaela Page qualified for the women's 800 meter finals that would take place on Saturday. Heptathlon did finish up with the 60 meter hurdles, the pole vault, and the 1,000 meters. And Max finished strong and brought home a bronze. So finished on the podium. 3rd place bronze medal finish for Max Stacking Pickering. Also, obviously, earning the first team All ACC honors there. He's the guy that we've had for the last few years doing that, and he's been, like I said, he's in contention in every event that he competes in, leading up to the ACCs, and then obviously rolling into NCAA tournament, NCAA championships, see what happens. But Max has always been strong there, and that rolls us into Saturday with the conclusion of the ACC indoor championships. Finished it out with 2 bronze medals, and so 2 bronze medals. Had a 3rd place finish in the women's 60 meter hurdles for Aaliyah Berry, and a 3rd place finish for Michaela Page in the women's 800 meter. Aaliyah's been strong all year. Our 60 meter hurdle group for women has been strong all year. It's been ranked in the event squad rankings in the top 10 all year with the likes of Aaliyah and Kalani Witherspoon. They've been leading the charge there. Michaela, 800 meters. She's been good in that event. She's been good in that event. She's one of the best there as far as I'm concerned. But then running through the All ACC honorees that closed it out. Aiden Neal finished 5th in the men's mile, brought home second team All ACC honors. Vera Schoberg finished 4th in the women's mile, brought home All ACC second team honors. Aaliyah Berry. I just mixed Aaliyah's name and Kalani's name in some kind of weird mashup. Aaliyah Berry, obviously, like I said, bronze medal, third place finish, first team All ACC honors. Kalani Witherspoon finished sixth in the women's 60-meter hurdles, and that gives her a second team All ACC honor. Michaela Page, with her bronze in the 800 meters, goes first team All ACC. Jumping down to the women's 3,000 meter, fourth place, Vera Schoberg gets her second team All ACC in that event. Then down to pole vault. So pole vault, Maddie Kelly, Annie Kerr, both finished and earned second team All ACC honors there. And that's it. So successful. Had like I said, 3 podium finishes. 2 being bronze, 1 being a gold. I just backed myself wrong. Oosh, I'm weird. So strong finishes there. Like I said, we've done good work there. The 2 bronzes and the gold amongst the men's and women's indoor teams. Wound up as everything compiled out. The men's team wound up finishing 8th, and the women's finished in 7th. So, successful. Like I said, we've been kind of in there. You'd like to see a little better. Hopefully, we'll strengthen up in some of the events that we haven't been as good at, and just be able to stay strong in those distance events that we have been good in, and have really kind of built us the last little bit. And then we'll run into now women's lacrosse. Started out actually only 1 contest this week from women's lacrosse. That was on Friday, and it was a record setter. The previous week, I think we tied the record. We tied the Carolina record for goals in a game with 24, and then came out again, number 1 team in the country, against Florida State in Chapel Hill on Friday afternoon, and just demolished them. Kind of like BTA, 27-3. Just first 8 goals, didn't let off the gas after that. Pulls us to 5-0 on the year, 3-0 in league play. Man, it was just everything you could want, man. Chloe, the greatest women's lacrosse player currently right now, for as far as I'm concerned. Chloe Humphrey, Addison Patillo matched their career highs in goals. They had 7 and 4 respectively. Eliza Osborne, Kate Levy, hat tricks. 12 different players scored. So, like I said, new program single game record. 73 goals over the last 3 games is also a program record. And the previous mark was like 65, which had been done twice. Single game record for shooting percentage, 27-34, 794, almost 80%. Clean game, only committed 9 turnovers, forced 8 on FSU, and then had a really dominant draw circle to 22-8. So just dominant performance. Keeps rolling. Number 1 in the country again. Number 1 with a bullet, so to speak, because they're just rolling right now. And ACC play is going to continue. So we'll see how it goes, and see how they work. But that is I was talking on a show the other week with Steve and Kevin on their show on Tuesday night a few weeks ago, and they asked about what my thoughts were for best chance for a championship out of our spring sports and Olympic sports, and I said quickly women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, and women's tennis, I think, and baseball. Those were my thing. Those are the ones I thought we have legit shots at. Women's lacrosse is the one I'm most confident in, but I think all 3 of those have a really good shot. So we'll see how it pairs out. I might be shooting a little high there, but we'll see how it plays out. You never know. Crazy things happen in sports. Lacrosse balls bounce funny ways. It could happen. Rolling in though to men's lacrosse, had a couple games go on, both of them up north in the ACC Ivy Challenge that we had going on. So on Friday, again rolling in number 2 according to USILA coaches poll, rolling in taking on number 19 Penn, a really tough tight match. Carolina comes out on the good on that one, positive side with an 11-9 win. Don Pietramala, 5 goals to kind of lead the attack there. It was a tight one, man. It was a tight one. I think Owen Duffy had 2 goals and 3 assists. It was a tight one. I think that leads us, those Ivy League schools have always been really good at men's lacrosse. It's just kind of the way it is. But yet and still with that, Carolina leads the all-time series with Penn 11-5. It was our first road win at Penn since 91, though. And Dom's 7th career game with 5 or more goals. Owen Duffy has posted a point, so that's either a goal or an assist in all 32 of his career games at Carolina. Some of the high points there that I think are worth mentioning. So good performance again, up to number 2 in the poll that I look at. Like I said, 1 in the Inside Lacrosse Media poll coming into the week. But it doesn't get any easier. Does not get any easier. Go from number 19, taking on number 19, Penn and Philly on Friday, rolling in on Sunday, up moving over to Princeton, New Jersey, taking on the number 10 Princeton Tigers, and reversal of fortune. It was an L. First L in the season. By 11-9 score, and that's why I say reversal of fortune, really, because we beat Penn 11-9, fall to number 10 Princeton 11-9. Really just kind of play catch up. Really kind of play catch up. I admittedly was at my daughter's volleyball tournament, like I said, this weekend, but I was keeping up on when I'm at tournaments and stuff like that, and I can't watch. I really can't focus on being able to watch AC's Network Extra on my phone. I'll do stat broadcast. Excellent tool there. Excellent tool. If you never looked at stat broadcast for anything, I love it. It's when I can't watch, and I at least can look at my phone to keep up on things. I will have stat broadcast for like everything going on at one time and just be able to look at it and kind of keep up with things or how things are going. Got the lead in the 4th, kind of late in the 4th, but then Princeton closed on a 3-0 run. Princeton closed on the 3-0 run to get the better of us. So 5-1 on the season now. Undefeated's hard in any sport. I mean, undefeated's hard on any sport. I get it. Then you got, like I said, women's lacrosse that said like hold my beer, and they're like got this huge long winning streak going and everything like that. But for women's lacrosse anyway, like 27 game winning streak, I think it is. So like I said, it happens. Owen Duffy led all heels though with highlights of the performances. I'll say Owen led all the heels with 4 points. He had 1 goal and 3 assists, so he extends that at least 1 point streak in all of his career games. Like what's it, 35 now? I think the stat said 33 now. Excuse me, 33 now with the Princeton match. Inside the numbers a little bit on that. This is one, like I said, Ivy League schools have always been really good in men's lacrosse. Princeton actually now with that, we were tied. Our series was tied 9-9 all time. Princeton now leads at 10-9, so they're 1 up on us right now. So we pretty much play them every year now, I think. So we'll hopefully get them next year. That was the first road matchup for us in the series since 2014. I don't know how they figure that out back and forth and all that stuff. So you figure it'd be home and home, but apparently it's not. One of those things. Dom has what we know with his goals, with his pair of goals he's scored multiple goals in 4 games this season. 4 straight games with a goal for Dom. Yeah, goalkeepers had combined for 37 saves. 2 goalkeepers trying 37 saves, but 11 got through. and it happens. So, kind of turn the page, flip it, turn the page, get ready for the next one. Like I always say, keep up, keep going. Get some more action coming in this week that, again, we'll highlight that when we get down to the end of as far as what's coming up. Women's tennis was in action, had a couple matches this past week, a Tuesday in Chapel Hill and a Sunday in Dallas, Texas. Tuesday was a non-conference deal, was a midweek non-conference deal against North Carolina Central. Fourth straight sweep of them, 7-0 for us. 10-0 now at home this season. 10-0 at home this season for women's tennis. Remember, there's only one loss on the season too, and that was to Georgia. No, was that Georgia? Beat Georgia. No, we beat Georgia. I've lost track of what the loss was. It's inconsequential at this point. Got doubles. Obviously secured the doubles point. A little mix up still with. You'll notice, as I talk about some of the teams, the doubles teams especially, we've kind of mixed up a little bit. Don't necessarily have the same ones going. When you get to a match like against North Carolina Central, where you should win, you can't discount your opponent. It's not meant as disrespect, but it's kind of like a midweek game in baseball, which I talked about on this last week's episode of Full Count Carolina. There's a point to those games, to the midweek stuff, where a lot of times with sports like tennis and baseball especially, you're trying different things out. So you're trying different things out with your lineups, with your pitching for baseball. It's a lot like that with tennis, where you're trying different stuff, especially with the doubles teams, and you're mixing them up a little bit against what we normally have, where we have 3 doubles teams that are ranked or so. But when we went up against Central, we actually did not run any of those out together. We went different groups. Tatum Evans and Anna Fry teamed up and got a win. Thea Radman and Claire Hill teamed up, got a win. Maddie Zampardo, and 2 straight starts from Maddie. And now finally, again, the transfer from state. I really, really like her game. And Mary Grace Renard were unfinished, but they were leading. And then we roll in with singles. And you'll notice, the first thing to highlight, Reese doesn't go. Number one singles player doesn't go. Give her the off. Got wins from number 6 Obi Kajura, number 70 Anna Fry got a win as far as singles rankings. Maddie Zampardo gets a win. Thea Radman ranked 100th in number 100 as far as singles rankings go. Thea got a win. Claire Hill got a win. And Mary Grace Renard got a win. So, wins all the way down. A little bit different shake up of the lineup and getting some players chances to play that maybe don't necessarily play in kind of the high stress ACC matchups. But we have that depth, and any of those could play. The Claire Hills and the Mary Grace Renards that don't necessarily always play single, aren't always in the singles lineup. They're capable. So I no doubt I have confidence you can plug them in and they can usually get the job done. So it's good to be able to get that chance though. And then on Sunday, rolling in on Sunday, and took on SMU down in Dallas. Excuse me. Rolled to the win there 4-2. A little bit closer, obviously. SMU actually came out and got the doubles point. We don't give up doubles too often. Then again, we also did not have the normal groups. Again, even against SMU, the normal groups aren't going. Mix ups a little bit, like I've said. You had Maddie Zampardo and Susanna Maltby go, Tatum Evans and Obi Kajura, and then a team of Reese Brantmeyer and Anna Fry went. So again, little mix ups on some of the teams. So again, and we've got three doubles teams that are ranked in the ITA team rankings, and none of those pairs have gone the last couple matches. Again, you're building something. You're letting players play together, building chemistry there. Use these as tune-ups sometimes. Some things you can use as tune-ups when you feel like you can, and that just helps us in the end. So but we got the dub. Like I said, lost the doubles point. We had, yeah, I mean, we lost 2-1. The one winner we did have on doubles was Reese and Anna got a win, but then Tatum and Obi took a loss, close loss, and then Maddie and Susanna had a loss as well, 6-2. So then rolled a singles. So we're playing catch up, obviously, right now. Down 0-1, playing catch up. The big surprise here is number one in the country, Reese Brantmeyer, goes down to an unranked player, and fairly easily, 6-1, 6-2. It just shows you, man. Even the best lose sometimes. Reese is, like I said, number one singles player in women's tennis right now in college. NCAA singles championship she won that in November. So it happens, it happens. But then you get a pickup from there, and that's the only other point they get, because then number 17, right, Tatum Evans takes down her opponent. Obi Kajura gets a win, and a Fry gets a win. Maddie Zampardo was actually down a set and tied in the second set, but hers goes unfinished. And then number 100 ranked singles player Thea Radman gets a win. So that rounds that out. That rounds out the win, the 4-2 ACC win. 3-0 in the ACC now for Carolina women's tennis. 14-1 on the season. And again, the action's going to keep rolling. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the coming week. At the end, as I always say, men's tennis next. Men's tennis had a couple as well go on the court. Both of them in Chapel Hill at Tuning Tennis Center. Friday took on number 12 Stanford and got the upset 4-2. So much needed. Something I've been waiting to see it, man. This is one of those things that I was like, we gotta beat somebody ranked eventually, right? We got to take them down. Going without, still playing without Niels Richu, who's one of our more highly ranked players. We only have a few in the rankings, like I've said in the past, over the last week or so, last couple of weeks when they did have the singles rankings come out for ITA. Niels had been one of those that had been in there for us all season. He's still not able to go. So, we got the doubles point, which, obviously awesome. And got the doubles point. And then was able to just finish it out again against the number 12 team in the country. So huge win, doubles win for Roan Jones and Anthony Wright. Chris Yu and Logan Zapp get a win, and then Ian Mayu and Kay Schinner were unfinished, and they were tied in theirs when they finished out. Stanford got their 2 wins. Stanford did get their 2 wins on the single side of things. Anthony Wright and Nick Mangiapane took losses, but then Christian Jacoris was going against a ranked opponent. Constantinos Jacoris. My bad, dude. Can't read. But he was tied up 1-1 and was in a third set with a ranked player. That one goes unfinished, but then 87th ranked Ian Mayu gets a win. 115th ranked Rowan Jones gets a win over the number 48 player. So that's an upset on that side. Let's see Rowan pop up in the rankings hopefully a little bit after that one for the singles. And Chris Shue gets a win as well. So that rounds that out. Big upset. Like I said, big time needed. Unranked us against number 12 Stanford. Hopefully take some momentum of that into and that actually they moved that indoors because it was cold and rainy on Friday here. I was going to Rocky Mount. I don't remember. I guess it was. I don't even remember Friday at this point as far as weather goes. But then hopefully, be able to take some momentum on Sunday at home against another ranked opponent in number 48th ranked team according to ITA rankings in the Cal Golden Bears. But that one didn't happen for us. Fell 4-2 in that one. you know, it's one of those things. You get the big upset over number 12, top 15 opponent, come back, you know, still unranked. But can't quite get the effort there. So, you know, it bees like that sometimes, right? Didn't get, we actually got the doubles point in that one. Yeah, we actually did get the doubles point in that one. No, I'm sorry. No, we did not. Cal got the doubles point. My bad. Yeah, Cal got the doubles point. Chris Shue and Logan Zapp took a loss. Ian Mayu and Kay Schinner lost. And yeah, Rowan Jones and Anthony Wright actually got a win in doubles, but 2-1 there, obviously. Lost the doubles point. Did a little bit, we're able to come in and get a couple wins. Rowan Jones and Ian Mayu both ranked players for us, got wins. But then Chris Yu, Konstantinos Dracoris, Nick Mangiapane, and Anthony Wright all Konstantinos and Nick lost. Anthony's was unfinished. He was in third set. So it was one set apiece for him, and he was down 3-2 in the third set. His goes unfinished. Drops us to 8-4 on the season, 1-1 in the ACC. So, it's a battle. It's a battle. Keep going at it. Keem will keep working, keep trying to get better. Like I always say, get ready for the next one. Yeah, and that will come this weekend. So, women's golf had a tournament in Houston. It was Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Or not, was it Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday? Yeah, it finished on Tuesday. Tournament finished on Tuesday, and we were competing again, 16th ranked women's golf right now, competing in a pretty good field out there in Houston at the Chevron Collegiate, led by Helen Jung and Megan Stryker, who finished second and fourth individually. But we got the win. So team title for Carolina. That's our second in three tournaments, in the last three tournaments, 8th under head coach Amy Neff now. And it's our second ever title in Texas. So the work's coming, men's golf, women's golf, like I said, both around the 15, 16 area in rankings. And the last few years have really put up some good results. So looking forward to the next one, but definitely congratulations to them on the win, finishing that tournament out on Tuesday this past week. Rolls us into a few more little small things that went on. We're almost down to the end here, folks. Swimming had if you remember, the ACC championships are done. We're getting ready. The NCAA, the zone diving is coming up, and then the NCAA swimming and diving championships are soon to follow. There was we had some swimmers go down to SMU and take chance in a last chance event, which you'll see them happen in various places. And what it is, it's like it says, it's a last chance to swim a time that will qualify you to be a qualifying time. I've talked about it, especially early on when we first started talking about swimming and diving on the Tar Heel Olympic Spotlight. I talked about NCAA standard times and what that meant. And those are basically times that when you swim to a certain point, that basically it's an NCAA standard time that qualifies you for the NCAAs, for the NCAA championships. So we did have some of those that did actually take place. Women's 100 breaststroke, Samantha Arman actually won, had a personal best time, an NCAA standard time, and swam the new number 2 all-time time at UNC in the women's 100 breast. So awesome there. Men's 400 individual medley, Josh Parent swam a personal best time, which was also an NCAA standard time for this year, and came out to be the number 5 all-time time at UNC in the men's 400 individual medley. So there's some you're going to notice a theme. There's some top 10 times coming out of here for Carolina, as well as some NCAA standards going. In fact, pretty much everybody that swam had got an NCAA standard time except for a couple. So it was a few. So it was a very, very productive event as far as that goes. Women's 500-yard free. We did have 1 and 2 in that event, but neither one of those, Tiffany Murillo and Lily Reeder, were NCAA standard times there. So a little bit tough luck. Women's 400 individual medley. Ashlyn Ferris swims a personal best, an NCAA standard, and the second all-time time in that event at Carolina. And Ava Muzzy, personal best, NCAA standard time in the event, number 6 all time in now for the women's 400 individual medley in Carolina history. Women's 100 backstroke, Cameron Meskel, NCAA standard time. Women's 200 backstroke, Marin Kanzi, NCAA standard time there. Women's 200 butterfly, Ashlyn Ferris, second, but doesn't get a standard time. Women's 1650 freestyle, Lily Reeder swims an NCAA standard time there. And the men's 1650 freestyle, Josh Parent, NCAA standard time, also the number 5 time all time at Carolina in the event. So a good event there. A really good event there. Got some folks qualified for the NCAA swimming championships. So, that's always a good thing. Hopefully give us a shot to compete there and kind of finish up a little bit higher in the standings on the national level. Gymnastics went down to Baton Rouge. 4-team event, the Purple and Gold Podium Challenge. It was made up of, and like I said at the beginning when I was talking about rankings, we come in number 17 ranked in the country to this event on Sunday. Participating in this podium challenge, 4-team challenge, LSU, who is number 2 ranked in the country, Alabama, number 3 in the country, and Arizona. And it kind of went chalk. It went chalk finishing wise. LSU won with a 198.2. Gosh, that's a high score. Number 2 in the country, obviously indicative of that score. Alabama second with a 197.65. Carolina, we finished in third with a 195.95, which is actually below, which is below our average, which is below where we've been finishing. And that kind of stands to reason because, when I talked about the polls or the rankings, remember those. I think I talked about how the rankings were kind of tabulated last week. The road to nationals, it really comes out more or less to be an average of your all-around team score or your team score. So, excuse me, not all around, but your team score overall. So, all around being an individual event. So, yeah, a little bit below our average there with the 195.95. And then Arizona comes in fourth with a 195. So, not the best, not our best event there, obviously. But, you keep going. Like I said, you keep working, you keep going at it. 7-8 on the season now for gymnastics, and 1-5 in the conference. ACC championships are coming up on the 21st of March. We've got a couple other events before then, though. We've got a couple other things going this weekend and the weekend after that before we get to the ACCs. So, you keep building. We've got some ladies that are ranked in the top 10, 15 or so in individual events. So, you have an off night every once in a while. I mean, obviously what it was with the score being there. We did actually get out our season high score on the bars, uneven bars, which is worth calling out. So, in a night that wasn't quite on par for us, or what we've been doing this year, we did get the high there, or we did have a kind of a high note there with a 49.225, which again, like I said, is our season high on that event. 2 freshmen came in with 9.85s in the event, and then that was Anna Pearl Stanley and Sydney Seabrooks with the 9.85s, and then Cami Ruda career high 9.9. So, Kaya Forbes with a 9.9 on the vault. Paige Prejean 9.85 on the vault. So I think that was Kaya's first 9.9 of the season too, on the vault. And she's actually ranked. She's in the top 15 or so in vault scores nationally, and that was her first 9.9 of the season. So, Anyway, so again, they'll be back at it. They'll be back at it. Another chance to compete, another chance to get better. Men's soccer finishing up. I mentioned last week the Carolina Cup, which is kind of like spring exhibitions, so to speak, I guess is the best thing to call them. We were at Wake, got a win at Wake last week. This past Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, took on Duke on the Finley Fields, and actually, no, it wasn't at Finley Field. This is Wake Med Soccer Park. I thought last week when I read it, it said it was going to be at Finley Fields. It did. Huh. Wake Med Soccer Park, according to the note here, actually got we're down a little bit and then got a late winner 4-3. So we took down Duke 4-3 there. Even in an exhibition, always good to take down Duke. Moves us to 2-0 in the Carolina Cup. Got wins over Duke and Wake. Got UNCW coming up this coming weekend on that. And that's what we're going to roll into now with kind of the week that will be in the Olympic sports. Obviously, baseball, basketball, men's basketball, softball stuff coming up. We cover that on various other things, podcast wise. So I don't spend the time on it here. Kicking off for the Olympic sports, kickoff action on Thursday. Men's tennis in a neutral site contest against Boston College in Charlotte at 1. No TV, no broadcast on that of record. Women's tennis taking on UNCG at Cheney Tennis Center, at home at Cheney Tennis Center at 4:00 on Thursday. Again, no broadcast there. On Friday, and then we kick off the busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which are always busy. Women's golf goes down to Gainesville starting on Friday to take day one of the Florida Gators Invitational. Gymnastics travels. Actually, no, gymnastics does not travel. Gymnastics travels all the way to Carmichael Arena. Gymnastics against Minnesota on Friday night, 6:45 in Carmichael. ACC Network Extra on that broadcast. ACC quarterfinals for basketball on Friday, obviously. Taking on, we talked about that. We'll find out our opponent. That's going to be a 7:30 game in Duluth. Don't call me Atlanta, Georgia. And ACC Network on that. Rolling into Saturday, fencing, men's and women's fencing up in Philadelphia on Saturday, participating in the Mid-Atlantic and South Regionals. That's in advance of the NCAA championships, which will be coming up. Women's golf has day 2 of the Florida Gators Invitational down in Gainesville. Men's golf has day 1 of the John Hyatt Collegiate Invitational in Ponte Vedra Beach. Nice Florida. Good sunny Florida stuff down there. Women's lacrosse, Dorrance Field, 11 a.m. Wow, 11 a.m. Wow, that's early. Pittsburgh on Saturday against Pitt. ACC Network Extra on the broadcast there. Men's lacrosse is back at it against Brown at 1 p.m. And they're going to be in Kenan Stadium. No broadcast on that one of note, or no broadcast that's mentioned. Women's basketball, ACC semifinals, 2:30 on Saturday. And again, Duluth, don't call me Atlanta, Georgia. I'll mention it but obviously nobody, I don't need to tell anybody, but men's basketball regular season will wrap up 6:30 Saturday night in Durham, Hansbrough Indoor Stadium against Duke. ESPN on that broadcast, since that's Carolina Duke, I'm going to mention it here. Sunday rolls into Sunday action. ACC Wrestling Championships on Sunday up in Blacksburg. They're going to be broadcast on ACC Network Extra. Women's golf closes out the Florida Gators Invitational in Gainesville. Men's golf, day 2 of the John Hyatt Collegiate Invitational in Ponte Vedra Beach. NCAA Zone Diving Championships kick off. Remember, I mentioned those when we were talking about the last chance stuff. Zone Divings kick off in Athens, Georgia on Sunday. The women's championship, ACC championship, is going to be 1 p.m. on Sunday. Carolina hopefully will be there. Semifinals and championship is why I mentioned it. And men's tennis, closing out the week of action for Olympic sports. Men's tennis is going to be taking on SMU 1 p.m. in Dallas. No broadcast on that one. And that's it, folks. That is it for the week. last but not least, the countdown. Again, we're down to 2 sports now. We're down to only 2 as far as spring things left to kick off. 24 days till outdoor track and field kicks off. That's from Monday. When I'm recording this week, as opposed to normally when I'm jumping the days down because you're watching it on Monday when I record it on Sunday. And 12 days till rowing kicks off. So that's it, y'all. I hope everybody has a good week coming up. Again, anything you're able to do, go out there, check it out. All the events there, all the events that are in Chapel Hill. If you listen back to what I said, go to gohills.com and pull up the cumulative schedule, the composite schedule. Look for stuff in Chapel Hill. Go check it out. There's baseball in Chapel Hill this weekend. There is baseball in Chapel Hill this weekend. There's softball in Chapel Hill this weekend. I actually am going to an Eric Church concert on Friday night in Greensboro with some friends and my youngest daughter. So I am going to miss baseball and all that on Friday, but I'm going to do my best to get up Saturday morning and come back so I can make baseball on Saturday because, again, Sunday's a wash. Don't have a tournament this weekend, but we do have practice and stuff on Sundays, which knocks me out right now for Sunday stuff. So unless something changes and practice gets canceled, you won't see me on Sunday at baseball. Hopefully I'll be there Friday. But again, I've been always look forward to their at church concerts. My favorite artist, my favorite artist of all time, GOAT in my opinion. So look forward to that. He's a Carolina guy too. Loves Carolina. You know that. So y'all have an awesome week. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, tell your friends. Let's spread the word, man. Let's bring the word out there on the Olympic sports and give these programs, these players, these coaches, they're just due for the things that they're doing. Most time at a very high level, because like I said, we compete at a high level in a lot of these sports. We're ranked in almost all of these sports that I'm talking about. So they deserve it. They deserve our attention. They deserve some light be shined on them for their efforts. So, check them out. Like I said, anytime you can get an opportunity to check things out in person, go do it. A lot of them, most of these things, Olympic sport wise, are still free. But Go Hills information, schedules and stuff. We've got all the information if you need that. Check that out. And like I said, subscribe on the video. Check out Hill Brothers' other content. Post game reaction right now. Post game reaction stuff from basketball games for the most part. Full Count Carolina covering softball and baseball is a new one. We're fairly new on that one. Those are out on Friday mornings after recording on Thursdays. So check that stuff out. And we'll keep bringing it to you. Keep bringing the content. Give us the suggestions, things like that, things you want to see, so we can make it better for you. But that's it for now. And as always, go Heal.